Bienvenidos a ajedrez. Muchachos y muchachas. Nah, I'm playing. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, that's just welcome to chess, pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, in Spanish. Don't get thrown off. Speaking English. Well, I mean, kind of, I guess. I don't know, I speak so many all the time to all my people. Speaking of which, all my people in the Philippines, magandang umaga, almasal tayo, kamusta na, mabuhay, ingat lagi, mabuting pagbati. How you guys doing? Appreciate it very much. Meraming salamat po sa nanonood ing aking my video. There's a gnat on my wall. It's irritating me. All my people that coming from French-speaking places, bonjour, comment ça va, comment allez-vous? Ça me fait plaisir de te voir. There was something I was gonna say. Yeah, ma meilleure pour toi. Or I think that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much how you say it. Yeah, my best for you. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate it very much. Merci beaucoup. Okay, so cool. So for everybody that is ready to go, I have the round 3 game between, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Wesley. So we'll see what's cracking. I will say this before we get to the game. This game does not end in a draw. So despite what you will see coming up, which is notoriously drawn, it is not a draw. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that down. But if you're ready to go, let's roll. We got e4, e5, knight to f3. We're just going to run through this. Knight to c6, bishop to b5, knight to f6, castles, knight takes e4, d4, knight to d6, bishop takes c6, pawn takes c6, pawn takes e5, knight to f5, queen takes d8, king takes d8. And we got h3. So as you guys know, we have the Berlin defense. And this is notorious for being drawn. And usually it's like a gigantic, there's like this much wins for white, this much wins for black, and this many draws. But this is not one of those guys. They get it on and cracking in this one. So moving on, we got bishop to d7, rook to d1, all standard stuff. We've seen this thousands, million times before. Bishop to e7, we got g4. So we're getting pretty aggressive as white. Knight to h4. Knight takes h4, bishop takes h4, we got knight to d2, king goes to c8, we got knight to e4, h6, and then we have a4, which is the novelty of the game. So, we're looking pretty even. I mean, it is still fairly even around this point in time. Nothing crazy's gone on so far, but we start to see a shift just a touch. So we got a5, just stopping any expansion by white on the queen side. We got knight coming to c5. We have bishop to e8, and then we have b3. And we have the first opportunity for black to start to take the initiative. We got b6. Now, there really isn't anywhere for the knight to go other than knight to d3. You also have knight to e4, but, it's one of the other options. But it's about the same either way. So we got c5. And this is, I would say this is probably the critical point in the game. This is kind of where like things take more of a decided turn. Now, you have a couple different options in this position. I mean, you have some c4s that could come just to try to fix the structure and basically make pushing b5 very, very undesirable. You also have like some knight to f4 situations that could come. Just maybe moving like knight down here or just kind of moving over here, seeing if we can attack this pawn and get a nice little square here. Just kind of jump around. That's what knights are best for. But we don't see any of that. We actually see bishop to b2. And it is actually in this position that I would like for you guys to pause the video and see what opportunity black has here to start to make some type of headway. Try to, grab the initiative that white is so generously handed them. Go ahead and do so. Okay, cool. So, you don't really, you have a little bit of some issues as black. You got to get this rook into play. This bishop needs to kind of come back into the game a little bit and stuff like that. But something that I mentioned quite a bit is opening lines and trying to, cause some damage to your opponent's structure. And one of the things that we have that's a little bit questionable for white is this king safety over here. You see all these squares that's just open? And this structure is not very solid. So this should give you the idea to play h5. Now, of course, if you take back with the pawn, you're just taking back with the rook and the king is wide open. Also, if you don't, you're going to be, let's say if you just make some random move, You know, like, I don't know, rookie. No, not rookie one. Yeah, rookie one or something. You got this, and then you got this. And as you can see, you got lines opened. You know, you're just not looking so safe, right? So if you did guess H5, after, let's say, bishop to B2, if you did guess H5, congratulations. You are, you know, noticing that, you know, you want to open some lines. You know, you want to get some lines open. You have two bishops. You got the possibility of getting these rooks involved. You really, really want some open lines. And you're going to start seeing, you know, the lines that can possibly be opened and how crazy the game is going to start to look here in a second. So we got F3. We got king over to B7. So as you can see, black is really getting themselves in the position that they want to be in. You have king to G2, but then you have bishop to C6. And now the problem is you have these rooks connected for black. You have this bishop bearing down, pinning this pawn. You have this bishop ready to kind of get up into the action. And you're definitely looking for a rook to swing over. So everything black is starting to play here is basically just getting the ball rolling and just getting everything as open as possible for the rooks and the bishops. So we see bishop coming to C3. We see F5. And this is just, like I said, I mean, you got this pawn grabbing. You got this pawn grabbing. Everything is getting grabbed. You're really, really hoping to get the thing, you know, get the situation open. And see, the problem is, after F5, you really have to take back with the G pawn. Because if you don't, and you do the en passant situation, you automatically just get open lines. And now you got this rook swinging over, or even this rook swinging over. This bishop is cutting down in here. You just, I mean, look at the slicage. Look at all these, I'm just doing this to be funny. Look at this. Look at all the slices that's going on. There's not that much slices, but I just thought I'd be funny and do that. Anyway, you get the point. So going back, we've got pawn taking F5. We got rook A to F8. We got E6. Bishop taking F5. Of course, you know, we can't just, you know, go, you know, fall asleep or go get into a coma or something like that and put, you know, bishop to G7, takes G7 because you got this. And this is, you know, I'm going to cry myself a river. So going back, we see knight to E5. We got rook to E8. Knight takes C6. You have to get something off the board. Like, you have to. Like, it's just so miserable if you don't get at least a bishop off the board. So we got king takes C6. We got rook to D2. Rook takes E6. Rook to F1. Bishop to E1. We have rook to D3. Rook to E2 with check. King goes to H1. Bishop takes C3. Rook takes C3. And like I always say, you are down a pawn as white, so you do not want to be trading things. You know, you don't want to get into that type of an endgame because it's favorable for black. You have the ability to, with this pawn clump here, to get a pass pawn, so you don't want that to be the case. Rook comes to D5. We have F4. Rook D to D2. So as I always say, you guys see my videos enough to see this is death. This is just absolute death on this rank. That wasn't what was played. That was a mistake. He didn't hang his rook. That's my bad. So going back, we do see rook to G3. Rook takes C2. King comes to G1. We see rook to E7. And it is actually in this position that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave does resign the game. I think you guys could look at the board and see that there's just really literally nothing to be done by white. You are just in such a defensive, like, helpless position that there really isn't much, you know, else that you could really be doing. So one possible variation, which is pretty much best play for both sides, is going to be F5. And you're going to be trying to, you know, put a little tickle onto this pawn, but you're also trying to get, you know, your rooks back on the 7th rank again. You got rook coming down here, rook to B1. You can either go king to G2 or move the rook back, and then you're going to be trading here. And as you guys can see, this is just 6 pawns to 4, and this is a very pleasant endgame for Wesley. So he did go ahead and win that. So he did win the first match for the rounds for today. So for all of my people in the Philippines, I'm still trying to get this in order, man. I'm still trying to get it hooked up. So I got Maanyong Buntog, Mayad na Agahan, Ninebag na Bigat, Masantos Yakabosan, Marhe na Aga, Buenos Dias. What was the other ones? Okay, so I got it up to that point though. Maanyong Aga, got that one. Mapia na Uma. And then Kapayan Kapano Dios. I'm going to be working on more, and I'm still continuing to work. I think I got to sleep on it a couple of days. I'm still working on trying to get everything, you know, hooked up all the way. But merci beaucoup, and I will see you guys next time.